I discovered that my roommate was 3 months pregnant, and she desperately begged me not to tell anyone. I felt sorry for her and not only helped her conceal it from our classmates and teachers, but also took great care of her daily life. Until one day, she gave birth in the bathroom, and the baby ended up in the drain, suffocating to death. To avoid being found out, she spread rumors on the campus forum, accusing me of being a chaotic person. Everyone believed I had gone crazy from the pregnancy and killed the child. Speechless and in despair, I chose to jump off the rooftop. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the time she had just become pregnant. I quickly called my counselor. When I woke up, I could hardly believe I had been reborn. Lying on the bed, I recalled my death. The biting cold wind reminded me of the countless scornful and derisive gazes I faced as I jumped, my bones shattered and blood everywhere. The screams and cries surged in like a tide, yet I smiled softly, mocking my inability to see through people and relieved that the nightmare was finally over. I wondered what that person, who had pushed me to my limit, was doing at that moment. Oh, she was hiding in the arms of her wealthy boyfriend, acting pitiful as she coaxed me.
Emily, don't be so desperate. I'll help you.
Her rich boyfriend showed impatience, coldly saying,
Enough, Meng Ran. Why are you so shameless? If you can't respect yourself, why force Jessica to cover for you?
He had not noticed the smugness and provocation in her eyes. I looked at her calmly, despair in my heart, and thought, Jessica, do you really think you can be carefree? You will pay for this. With that, I ignored her suddenly ugly expression and fell back down. Bang, my memories stopped abruptly. The dormitory door opened and closed, followed by the sound of shuffling footsteps. My roommate, Sarah, thought I was still asleep and whispered,
Jessica, why did you buy so many snacks? Didn't you say you wanted to lose weight?
Oh, I happened to see a sale at the supermarket, so I thought I'd stock up. I replied lightly, secretly noting that this big bag was actually all for Emily, who had recently developed a huge appetite.
Looks like you two are quite close,
Sarah teased. Then Jessica's footsteps turned towards my bedside.
Emily, you're awake.
I thought you were still sleeping. She saw me sitting cross-legged, her smile slightly stiff but quickly recovering its ease. I suppressed my inner anger and hatred, thinking,
No, it's not time for revenge yet.
I wanted her to walk step by step toward her own hell.
Just woke up. Who knew you would suddenly pull my curtain? Sorry if I scared you.
I feigned lightness.
Fine, my fault. I'm just concerned about you. After all, you're pregnant.
Her tone was provocative, clearly aware of what her pregnancy might cause. I shuddered, realizing she had already set a trap. It was no wonder I had never found evidence of her pregnancy. Instead, she had used my ID for her prenatal checkups, which completely exposed my own pregnancy. At that moment, Jessica rolled her eyes and said with a smile, By the way, the snacks you asked me to bring are on the table. The bag cost less than $400, thanks to the sale. Just remember not to eat too much, you wouldn't want to hurt the baby. She placed a large bag of snacks beside me, which was twice the size of her own. Seeing her deliberate provocation, I felt suffocated and weakly retorted, What baby? I just had a fever and laid down for 2 days. Saying stuff like that will confuse others. And I only asked you to bring a few cups of instant noodles, you can take the rest back. My allowance is almost gone, and I can't afford that much, I stated firmly, though I felt uneasy inside. 400? This bag is so big, if you count carefully, it's less than 100. I remembered that in my past life, I never cared for snacks, quickly transferring 400 to Jessica without thinking when I received them. I had lived on steamed buns for 10 days while she bought a bunch of nutritional products, probably laughing behind my back as the scapegoat. But Emily, I can't finish all this. She looked worried, lowering her head slightly. I'll go to sleep first. Fine, just take some if you want. Jessica turned away, her brow slightly furrowed, feigning a bit of grievance. Unfortunately, the atmosphere had become awkward enough that Sarah had already slipped away to the bathroom and another roommate had gone home, leaving no one to notice her. In the following days, I began to learn how to stir the pot. Hey, Jessica, are you making formula? It smells so good. Jessica, why are you snacking again? Be careful not to gain weight. Hey, Jessica, didn't you finish lunch? Looks like your appetite has increased, and your waist seems a bit thicker. Jessica. Jessica looked weak, unable to respond seriously and only laughing it off awkwardly. Before long, everyone in class had noticed that the school beauty was eating a lot recently, and if you looked closely, she had indeed put on a bit of weight. In reality, it didn't matter much, the attention was just curiosity. If it weren't for my intentional teasing, who would suspect someone as delicate as Jessica? But she clearly wasn't that calm and needed someone to help her shed suspicions. Emily, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have hidden this from you. I really don't know what to do. She threw herself into my arms, looking panicked and helpless like a little rabbit. She knew I was an orphan and that since the start of the semester, she had been trying to show me kindness. She also understood that I appeared cold on the outside but was warm-hearted. A few tears in front of me would usually resolve her issues. I thought I had found a friend, but I didn't realize she was actually an ungrateful viper. After a long silence, as her facade was about to crack, I patted her shoulder and assured her, "Don't worry, I'll help you." How about helping you become famous all over school? When I learned of her pregnancy in my previous life, my first instinct was to tell the counselor, but she stopped me. That would leave a bad impression on the counselor and affect the scholarship selection. She spun a web of excuses, even claiming she wouldn't tell her parents for fear of scaring them. In short, she had 1,000 reasons to stall me. This time, I didn't ask any more questions and directly took her to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. Emily, Jessica said, fiddling with the hem of her clothes, her voice so small it was almost inaudible. Could you use your name to book an appointment? I'm scared. Can I? I promise it'll only be this once. Her voice held a pleading tone, just like in my past life. After I refused, she didn't press the issue, knowing she would need to book several appointments under my name later. After we got the examination slip, I accompanied her to see the doctor. Ms. Zhang, you are now nearly 2 months pregnant. You need to rest more and increase your nutrition. The doctor advised seriously, while I took notes on her instructions. Jessica stared down, lost in thought. Eventually, the doctor let us go, and Jessica tightly clutched the examination slip, showing it to me only briefly before quickly tucking it away in her bag, appearing particularly cautious. From the moment she approached me, everything was set in motion. I smiled slightly, took out the tiny camera hidden in my collar, and called the counselor. Teacher Young, do you have a moment? I need to discuss something with you. I only asked you to bring a few cups of instant noodles. You can take the rest of the snacks back. My living expenses are almost gone, and I can't afford that much, I said firmly, though a knot of unease lingered in my stomach. What do you mean $400? The packages of snacks in this bag are so large, if you count them carefully, they don't even add up to 100. I recalled how I hadn't cared for snacks in my past life. When I received these, I hastily transferred 400 to Jessica without a second thought. During that time, I lived on steamed buns for 10 days while she indulged in heaps of nutrition products. Was she laughing behind my back as the unwitting scapegoat? But Emily, I can't eat all this. She lowered her head slightly, looking anxious. I'll go to sleep first.
All right, just grab some if you want.
Jessica turned away, her brows slightly furrowed in a show of grievance. But Sarah, sensing the awkward atmosphere, had already sneaked off to the bathroom, and the other roommate had gone home. No one was left to notice her. In the next few days, I started honing my skills in manipulation.
Wow, Jessica, are you making formula?
It smells amazing.
Jessica, why are you snacking again? Don't forget to watch your diet. Hey, Jessica, didn't you finish lunch? Looks like your appetite has really increased. Your waist seems thicker.
Jessica. Jessica feebly responded, unable to seriously retort, and could only laugh awkwardly. Soon, everyone in class was aware that the school beauty had been eating a lot lately, and upon closer inspection, she had indeed put on some weight. It didn't matter much, as the curiosity was merely situational. If not for my deliberate guidance, who would suspect someone as seemingly fragile as Jessica? But she clearly wasn't calm. She desperately needed someone to help her escape the scrutiny.
Emily, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have kept this from you. I really don't know what to do.
She fell into my embrace, looking terrified and helpless, like a little rabbit. She knew I was an orphan who had been starved for attention since school began. She recognized my cool exterior but warm heart, thinking that shedding a few tears would solve her problems. I thought I had found a friend, but I now realized she was nothing more than an ungrateful snake. After a long pause, as her act was about to crumble, I patted her shoulder and reassured her. "Don't worry, I'll help you." "How about helping you become famous all over campus?" When I learned about her pregnancy in my previous life, my first reaction was to inform the counselor, but she stopped me.
That would leave a bad impression on the counselor and affect the scholarship selection,
She said, spinning various excuses, even claiming she wouldn't tell her parents for fear of scaring them. In essence, she always had 1,000 reasons to stall me. This time, I didn't ask further and took her directly to the hospital for a checkup.
Emily!
Jessica said, her voice barely audible as she fidgeted with the hem of her shirt.
Could I use your name to make an appointment? I'm scared. Is that okay? I promise it will only be this once.
Her voice was filled with desperation, just like in my past life. After I declined, she didn't press the issue, knowing she would need to book several appointments under my name later. Once we received the examination slip, I accompanied her to see the doctor. "Ms. Zhang, you are nearly 2 months pregnant now. You need to take care of yourself and supplement your nutrition," the doctor advised seriously while I quickly took notes. Jessica kept her head down, lost in thought. After a while, the doctor dismissed us, and Jessica clutched the examination slip tightly, giving me only a quick glance before shoving it into her bag, appearing quite cautious. But from the moment she approached me, everything was already set in motion. I smiled slightly, pulled out the tiny camera hidden in my collar, and called the counselor. "Teacher Young, do you have a moment? I need to discuss something with you." The lecture ended, and it was nearly 9 o'clock. Light rain began to fall. The cold air sent a chill down my spine, prompting me to step back, only to unexpectedly bump into a wall of people.
Hey, watch where you're walking.
A playful voice came from behind. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." I quickly stepped aside, looking up with a mix of panic and apology. "No worries, you didn't do it on purpose." He smiled. "Didn't bring an umbrella? I can give you a ride." "Really? Is that okay?" My heart leaped with joy. "Of course. I don't live on campus either, so let's go. I'll drive you home. Am I being too much of a bother? Please, don't mention it. A few bucks for gas doesn't matter to me," he replied straightforwardly. "Okay then, thank you so much." I felt a wave of gratitude. Ryan looked at me with a warm smile, his face radiating sunlight. We chatted comfortably during the drive, the atmosphere relaxed and enjoyable. When we arrived at my apartment complex, Ryan gallantly held the umbrella over me, escorting me to the bottom of my building. "Thanks for the ride home today. You should get back and rest." "Sure." I was about to say something more when a soft voice interrupted us. "Emily." Ryan's expression slightly soured. Jessica approached in a white dress, running a few steps with a weary look on her face. "Emily, you're finally back. I've been waiting for you for a long time." She affectionately linked her arm through mine, like a little sister, then noticed Ryan. "Who's this?" "This is Ryan Chen, a classmate of ours. He kindly offered to drive me back since it started raining after the lecture," I said calmly, pulling away from her grip and draping Ryan's jacket over her shoulders.
You should be careful not to catch a cold.
"Hello." Ryan nodded slightly. Hi, thank you so much for bringing Emily back. Otherwise, she would have caught a cold in this rain. Jessica said, her face full of gratitude. Just a small favor, Ryan said, interrupted by her thanks, and after some simple pleasantries, he left. I pulled Jessica upstairs, and she glanced back, clearly regretting missing the lecture and losing out on this opportunity.
Emily, that guy looked a bit fierce. He didn't do anything to you, did he?
She suddenly asked. No, he's a nice person. His family is in real estate, so he's probably not short on cash. I replied casually. Wow, sounds really rich, Jessica said, excitement flashing in her eyes. I didn't say much more. Once inside, I poured myself a cup of hot water and patted her shoulder. All right, go get some rest. If I'm late coming back, don't wait for me. I'm worried you won't be able to handle it. Okay, she replied, appearing a bit distracted as she obediently returned to her room. I raised an eyebrow, too lazy to remind her to take off the rain-soaked coat. Back in my bedroom, I checked my phone and saw some messages from Ryan. You can brew some ginger tea to warm up. It was nice meeting you today. I didn't reply, simply washing my face and getting into bed to sleep. The next morning, I got up early at 8, prepared breakfast, and sent a message to Ryan explaining. I felt a bit dizzy yesterday and went to bed early. After that, I woke Jessica up, and we had breakfast together. She had faint dark circles under her eyes, clearly having not slept well, but her face was full of joy, clearly indicating that Ryan had become her target. By the time we reached the classroom, Jessica's excitement carried through to the start of our class. Unfortunately, her eyes began to glaze over, and she ended up dozing off right in front of the teacher. Since we arrived just in time, there were only seats available in the middle of the front row. When the teacher called her name to answer a question, everyone turned to her, only to find she had fallen asleep for a few seconds. I quickly nudged her.
Jessica, wake up!
She jolted upright, flustered.
Teacher! I'm so sorry! I wasn't feeling well and fell asleep. Could you please repeat the question?
The teacher smiled gently, patiently repeating the question. Jessica still stammered through her answer. Her mind was clouded by various worries, leaving her unable to focus on class. She felt drained. During lessons, she either dozed off or fretted about how to handle her pregnancy. She sensed the curious gazes of her classmates, making her increasingly anxious. She had already wasted too much time. While autumn and winter clothing could hide her stomach for a while, it would eventually become noticeable. Now, she needed to find a way to get closer to Ryan, hoping to push this problem onto him. Otherwise, she might harden her heart and abandon the life about to come. In the following days, I deliberately bumped into Ryan a few times and engaged him in topics he was interested in while chatting on WeChat. We grew more familiar, and I could clearly sense his feelings for me were rapidly growing. Finally, Ryan couldn't hold back anymore and asked me out to watch a movie. I happily agreed and casually mentioned this news to Jessica. She immediately attached herself to me, insisting she wanted to join. Come on, Emily, please let me go. I promise I won't disturb you guys, she pleaded.
This isn't about disturbing or not. I'm worried you won't be able to handle it.
I hesitated.
I'm much better now. I won't feel dizzy or nauseous anymore. Plus, I've been stuck at home every day. Can you bear to let me be bored to death?
Jessica clasped her hands together, looking at me with her big, pitiful eyes as if pleading for my compassion. I pretended to soften my heart.
All right, but you must tell me if you feel unwell at any point.
Okay, I understand. Thank you, Emily, she replied excitedly. While we were supposed to be watching a movie, we also needed to find a place to eat. Ryan likely viewed this as a date, so when I showed up at the restaurant with Jessica, he was clearly taken aback.
I'm really sorry, Senior. I was so bored that I begged Emily to bring me along. Don't blame her,
Jessica said playfully, sticking her tongue out.
There's nothing to blame. You two should get your orders in.
Ryan responded calmly, seemingly treating this as a test of girls' dynamics. Jessica, mistaking his calmness for interest in her, flushed and seemed to assume everything about the scene was tailored just for her. She didn't sense anything off. Instead, she secretly hoped to develop a relationship with Ryan. Dinner went on with everyone absorbed in their thoughts. I focused on my meal. The food at this restaurant was quite good, and since Ryan was paying, I didn't hold back. He occasionally served me food, grinning like a fool, while Jessica appeared both jealous and hungry, frustrated yet hesitant to eat more for fear of disrupting her plans. After the meal, I decided to order a cup of milk tea. Before the movie started, I checked my phone and pretended to panic.
My supervisor just messaged me, asking me to come see him about my thesis. I might not be able to watch the movie with you. Should we reschedule then?
Ryan seemed a bit disappointed.
Don't! It'd be a waste to let the movie tickets go to waste. How about you, Ryan, accompany Jessica inside? You can tell me about the movie later.
I quickly interrupted. The fleeting surprise in Jessica's eyes dimmed but was quickly replaced with an excitement she tried to contain. Emily, let's just go back. It won't be fun to watch the movie without you. No way. You've been sick for so long, and it's a rare chance to get out. I can't ruin your fun. I pulled Ryan's hand and shoved the movie ticket into it, then nudged Jessica to show my trust. Thanks. I'll treat you to a meal later, I said, not waiting for their reactions before I dashed away. The two exchanged glances. Jessica, suppressing her excitement, said, "So, Ryan, let's go in. We can't let Emily's kindness go to waste." In the blink of an eye, it was nearly December. With more coursework piling up, I also got a few classmates to join me in a competition. Each day was filled with discussions on the project or buried in writing papers, keeping me incredibly busy. I used this as an excuse to hardly return to my rented place, leaving Jessica to take care of herself. Although she complained, she didn't dare to oppose me directly. As for Ryan, he continued to chat with me persistently, occasionally giving little gifts. If it weren't for my fear of him and Jessica developing feelings for each other and coming back to cause trouble for me, I wouldn't have minded getting closer to him. After all, I didn't think I had the ability to stand against him or his family. He might not directly hurt me, but there were countless ways he could drag me down into misery. Just like in my past life when he had no hesitation in bringing people to bully me, all for Jessica's sake. And now, because of a slight affection, he reined in his pride and began to approach me carefully. In this new life, I didn't dare take risks. If I wanted revenge, I had to ensure I could retreat unscathed. With this thought in mind, I let out a gentle sigh and looked up just in time to see Ryan sink a spectacular three-point shot, eliciting cheers from the crowd. With an expectant look, he walked toward me, and I smiled, giving him a thumbs up. After I sorted through the ideas for 2 papers and my stomach grumbled, Ryan, still sweaty from the game, hurried over to me. "Mang Ran, how about that? I told you I'd win." I smiled lightly and handed him a bottle of water. Yes, you're the best, young Master Chen." "Of course." "By the way, remember you promised to take me out for dinner if I won?" "Let's go." He took my arm, ready to leave. I paused slightly. "Not right now." I pointed to his teammates, also dripping with sweat, and teased. "You only think about eating. You need to put your shirt on first." "Yeah, brother you, we know you're in a hurry, but hold on a second." One of the teammates chimed in. Ryan scratched his head sheepishly and put on his jacket. I continued. "Let's go to the locker room for a shower and change first. You don't want to catch a cold." With that, I casually grabbed his wrist and led him away. Inside the dorm room, Jessica sat grimly scrolling through a forum. Enlarged photos on her phone displayed a side profile of me and Ryan, and despite just holding hands while leaving, she recognized us immediately. "Wow, they actually look pretty good together." One comment caught her attention. "That girl has such a lovely aura. Can I get the coat link?" "I was there." "Both of them are super attractive. After seeing them, I suddenly find my boyfriend less appealing." As she read through the sugar-coated comments, she couldn't help but kick over the nearby trash bin, sending greasy takeout wrappers flying. The sauces soaked the floor and blanket, filling the air with an unpleasant odor. Jessica felt nauseous and rushed to the toilet to vomit. She wasn't much of a cook and had become accustomed to eating takeout daily. The poor nutrition, coupled with her growing frustration, made her complexion worse. "Is this what you meant by not having time to take care of me? Leaving me to flirt with someone else, especially Ryan? If that's the case, don't blame me," she fumed to herself. Meanwhile, I took a freshly cleaned Ryan to the cafeteria. "Wait, you're not suggesting we eat at the cafeteria, are you?" "I think the food there is awful," Ryan said, scrunching his face in distaste. I only smiled and remained silent, pulling out several sealed containers from my backpack. "We're not eating cafeteria food. This is what I made. I'd like young Masterchin to taste it." I presented him with garlic ribs, tofu soup, longjing shrimp, stir-fried bamboo shoots, and 2 boxes of fluffy white rice. The dishes were colorful and aromatic, enticing him as I lifted the lids. "It smells amazing." "I didn't know you could cook, Meng Ran," he exclaimed, unable to resist, and started digging in, clearly starving after the afternoon's game. I took my time picking up some food. I'm an orphan, basic skills like cooking and laundry are necessities. Otherwise, I would have starved long ago. At my words, Ryan paused briefly, a flicker of sympathy in his eyes. I quickly pushed the food toward him. "Eat up, it'll get cold." Sympathy and pity were of no use to me. After dinner, it was already dark. Ryan insisted on walking me home, but I didn't want him to stand around outside my dorm, so I led him back to the place where Jessica and I lived. Just as I was about to tell him to go back when we reached the bottom of the building, he suddenly hugged me. "Meng Ran, I wasn't feeling pity for you this afternoon, it was." He rested his head on my shoulder and quietly revealed his past. My parents had a business marriage. After I was born, they went their separate ways. My father indulged himself, while my mother, having found true love, cut ties with us only to fall victim to a domestic abuser. He described how he had lacked affection and education as a child, which led to his rebellious and reckless behavior. "Your cooking tastes like home," he said, asking if I could give him a chance to help him escape from the shadows of his past. After hearing this, I wanted to laugh. Did a painful childhood determine your whole life? There are so many people who struggle in hardship, not everyone wallows in self-pity. Some come from tough families but work hard to carve out their futures, others may be disabled yet still seek the value of life. Suffering comes in many forms, but it is not an excuse for us to turn bad, and it is certainly not a justification for pity. I never saw my orphan status as a shadow over my life, rather, it allowed me to see things more clearly and understand the good and bad in society. As long as I worked hard, my life would be fulfilling and rich. I felt a need to have a serious talk with Ryan, but I also thought it might not be necessary. His greatest suffering was his parents' lack of love, and that led him to resonate with me, impulsively wanting to tie himself to me. I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. Although I knew I should agree to his request, I still refused. "Sorry, I'm not sure yet." "You should think about it too." With that, I turned and headed upstairs, not noticing Jessica lurking behind a trash bin, watching Ryan's desolate figure disappear into the night, her eyes flickering with an uncertain light. After a busy period, my roommates and I, along with a few classmates, finally wrapped up all the details for the competition and shifted our focus to preparing for finals. Just then, my roommate Sarah burst into the dorm, panicking.
"Emily, something's wrong. You need to see the campus forum. Someone's spreading rumors that you're having an affair with Ryan and that you're pregnant out of wedlock."
Chloe, who was nearby, was furious.
"These people are so vile. Besides, you and Ryan aren't even together. How could it be called cheating?" "People just jump to conclusions. They're no better than keyboard warriors." I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on as I opened the forum, only to find a barrage of insults. "What a scandal! Someone actually dared to cheat on Ryan. He's so good looking. I can't believe someone could be so disgusting."
One comment read,
Quietly asking, "Could this be a rumor? She doesn't seem like that kind of person." "Rumor?" Didn't you see the OP posted the prenatal checkup slip and pictures from the hospital? It clearly says Mang ran on it. That's concrete evidence.
I know her roommate, Jessica.
She mentioned that Mang Ran had been disappearing for a while. Then they rented a place together, and she saw Mang Ran throwing up a few times, which really looks like pregnancy symptoms.
Jessica? Isn't she our goddess of beauty? If she's saying that, it's probably true.
I couldn't help but smirk to myself. I was completely certain it was Jessica's doing. I hadn't expected her to act so quickly, possibly feeling threatened by my growing closeness with Ryan and resorting to such an irrational move. Now that I thought about it, Ryan seemed to have disappeared for about half a month without contacting me on WeChat. I wondered if it had something to do with this situation. My roommates were anxious when they saw me relaxed.
Why are you smiling? If this spreads further, even if you didn't do anything, it'll become something you did.
Exactly. We need to come up with a plan. Should we talk to the counselor to clear things up? And Jessica, isn't she supposed to be your best friend? Why is she suddenly trying to smear your name? I felt warm inside, quickly reassuring them.
Don't worry, I have a plan. Someone is trying to mess with me, and I'll turn the tables on them.
After calming them down, I suggested we head to the cafeteria to try the new pickled fish dish that had come out recently. As we headed downstairs, we unexpectedly bumped into Ryan. He was still dressed in his familiar outfit, wearing an oversized white puffer jacket, looking a bit worn and exhausted. The large supermarket on campus was right next to our dormitory, making it a common path for us. Ryan was carrying several bags filled with nutrition products and some women's clothing, clearly waiting for someone. I raised an eyebrow, thinking that he had indeed started seeing someone. However, Ryan's expression didn't reflect the happiness I had seen in my previous life. Deciding to ignore him, I attempted to walk past, but he called out,
Mang Ran.
I didn't respond, pretending I hadn't heard. The next second, Ryan rushed to block my path, causing the bags in his hands to spill onto the floor. He stared at me intensely, his gaze complex.
Don't you have anything to say to me? What is there to say?
I replied coldly. Ryan paused, speechless for a moment, before speaking again.
Is what they're saying on the forum true? Did you really?
He didn't finish his sentence. Chloe, who had a fiery temper, couldn't hold back and interjected.
What's true or false? Emily is innocent. Clearly, it's just someone trying to tarnish her name out of jealousy. Those rotten people deserve to rot in hell.
Sarah chimed in.
Exactly. We've been working on the competition together this whole time, and she hasn't. Wait, Emily.
Before I could respond, Jessica suddenly appeared from who knows where, wearing the same oversized puffer jacket as Ryan, which hid her slightly bulky figure. After some time of managing her situation, she seemed to be in a much better place. She affectionately linked her arm with Ryan's and smiled. Aw, hon, what are you asking? How can you suspect Emily like that? I believe she's not that kind of person. Even though she's been avoiding me lately, it's probably just because she's busy with her studies. Let's take a step back. Emily is an orphan, and we can't be sure she hasn't encountered some problems. Even if she strays off course, we can help her back on the right path, can't we? It was lunchtime, and people were passing by. As Jessica spoke, many stopped to gather around, clearly wanting to witness the drama unfolding. Emily, if you're really in trouble, please talk to me. Why do it this way? Ryan asked softly, disappointment etched on his face.
You're an orphan, but that doesn't mean you have to give up on yourself.
He hesitated, lips moving as if he was going to say something harsh, but couldn't bring himself to say it. Still, the disappointment in his eyes deepened, as though he felt betrayed and was suffering from it. Trust between people can certainly be fragile. Unbeknownst to everyone, Jessica's eyes sparkled with a provocative glint.
Emily, although I'm with Ahung now, there was a time you were close to him. If you're facing any hardship, don't hesitate to let us know. Ahung and I will do our best to help you.
Right, Ahung? She turned to Ryan, who silently nodded, not saying anything more. Watching this pair play off each other, I felt speechless. I patted my roommates reassuringly and coldly stared at Ryan.
First, I never agreed to be with you, so there's no question of cheating. You don't need to act like you've been betrayed. Second, the focus of this situation is me. I'll clarify the pregnancy rumors through a hospital checkup, and you two have no right to speculate here. Third, yes, I'm an orphan, but that doesn't justify your judgment of my actions. Just because someone has no parents doesn't mean they will self-destruct to survive. You seriously underestimate us so-called orphans.
I paused, turning my gaze to Jessica, smiling meaningfully.
As for who truly is pregnant out of wedlock, that's still up for debate. There's no wall that doesn't leak, and some people shouldn't think that destroying evidence means everything will be fine.
With that, I strode away with my visibly relieved roommates, feeling elated. What a bother, even eating took away valuable time. The onlookers began to disperse, sneaking glances at Jessica and Ryan as they left, whispering to one another.
Could it be? Maybe.
Standing still, Jessica felt a sudden wave of anxiety, gripping Ryan's hand tightly. She then recalled that she had destroyed all the evidence and had been intimate with Ryan, pinning the baby in her womb on him. Even if Meng Rand pointed out her premarital pregnancy, she could spin it to her advantage, and the worst-case scenario would be some damage to her reputation. After dinner, I rushed to the hospital in the afternoon. I had originally planned to let the public opinion simmer for a day before clarifying things tomorrow, but Jessica's need to create chaos in front of me was simply intolerable. I chose to post the freshly minted medical proof along with some clips from the hidden camera during peak hours that evening, simply captioning it. Clarification. Instantly, my account soared to the top of the trending topics.
So the one pregnant out of wedlock is actually Jessica? Not Meng Ran?
Based on my professional opinion, the pictures and videos show no signs of editing, they're raw and unaltered, so this is the truth. Doesn't that Jessica seem quite scheming? Using Meng Ran's name to get her prenatal checkup. I have reasonable suspicions that those earlier rumors about Meng Ran's pregnancy records were deliberately fabricated by her. The truth is unfolding. Those checkup slips also weren't tampered with, which means they were using Meng Ran's name from the very beginning. This was premeditated. And those photos of Meng Ran at the hospital, while the person looked a lot like her, the thick clothing obscured their face. Jessica, being Meng Ran's roommate, would definitely know how she acts and probably mimicked her for those photos. Unless she intended to frame her, who would stalk and secretly take pictures of someone else. Right on point. I feel like I'm getting smarter here. I was there this afternoon, witnessing Jessica and Ryan conspiring against Meng Ran. Then Meng Ran counterattacked so logically, saying, "Who truly is pregnant out of wedlock remains to be seen," and I felt something was off. I was also there. I recorded it. Meng Ran was so cool. Please share the video. Video request plus 10,086. Wait a minute, did anyone notice that the checkup date on Meng Ran's slip was in September? Once this comment hit, the audience fell silent, realizing it meant Jessica had to be at least 4 to 5 months pregnant now. I heard Jessica and Ryan have only been together for about a month. So, the baby must be from her ex? Ryan is going to be a stepdad? Hey, don't mention names like that, be careful, or the school bully might come after you. It's so annoying. Meng Ran was there taking care of her medical advice, cooking for her, and now Jessica is slandering her. But how can this be hidden? By now, even a small bump should be noticeable, right? Is Ryan really going to go along with this? I'm curious too. I fed Jessica a lot of high-fat foods, and she doesn't like to exercise. Unless she wears enough layers, her belly should be pretty obvious by now. However, she would soon provide an answer to my curiosity. The next day, Jessica calmly appeared at our dorm door, insisting on talking to me. Not wanting to disturb the other students and curious to see what tricks she would pull, I agreed. Standing at the staircase, she glared at me with resentment.
Meng Ran, you're something else. I never expected you'd start guarding against me from that time. Why can't you just give me a break? I clearly tricked Ryan into drinking, making him think we had a relationship. I went through so much trouble to elicit his sympathy, saying my parents didn't love me and that I had a tumor in my stomach and I needed his help. I promised I would only rely on him for a while and wouldn't affect your relationship. Ha! He is a bit foolish. When he hears your name, he just thinks to use me to provoke you into agreeing with him. But it doesn't matter. I thought as long as I stayed by his side, there would be a chance to win him over. But by doing this, he cut off all ties with me. He practically wants nothing to do with me. All my efforts have gone to waste.
I replied coolly.
You were the one who targeted me first, and now I can't even clarify things? You could have just posted the hospital checkup, but why did you have to include the videos? Don't you know this will ruin me?
Her voice was shrill, echoing throughout the dorm building.
Isn't this just reaping what you've sown? You know what your rumors could do to me, yet you still did it. Did you ever consider that if I couldn't produce evidence, I'd be condemned by thousands? Now that it has come to this, it's merely the result of what you started.
Jessica paused for a moment, then resentfully shot back.
I don't believe in karma. I just lost to you because I'm not as good.
Suddenly, she grabbed my hand and sighed softly. It's useless now to control this child. Why don't you help me just one last time? Then, with a strange smile, she pulled me backward while simultaneously shouting,
Help!
Next, I heard something heavy crash down. I realized her intention and steadied myself. Looking down, Jessica was sprawled on the ground, hair scattered, surrounded by a pool of blood, desperately clinging to life. Blood poured out in waves, like an endless river, a stark representation of life draining away. Her once smug eyes were now teary, mixing with the blood on her face. Her lips moved, whispering,
Help me!
Jessica was rushed to the hospital, unconscious. I was taken to the police station for tea. Since I had habitually concealed a camera in my collar, it captured Jessica's attempt to frame me. With ample evidence, I was released back to school, and on the way out, I reported Jessica for defamation. As a result, the situation gained new traction, with someone hiding behind the dorm door capturing our entire confrontation. Although the clip was taken down after just a minute, all related posts were deleted, yet some quick-eyed individuals managed to save the recordings.
Jessica's really lost it. Is she just throwing caution to the wind? It's clearly a case of hurting herself while trying to hurt others. Honestly, seeing the former school goddess like this is quite sad.
As the uproar gradually died down, and with everyone focused on their final exams, the incident quickly faded from memory. I decided to ignore the noise around me and continued my studies. Unfortunately, Ryan persisted in bothering me. I blocked him on WeChat, but he still waited for me downstairs, looking at me with pleading eyes.
Emily, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have doubted you. Can you forgive me?
He slapped himself hard a few times.
If you're still angry, hit me if you want. If that's not enough, I can have someone bring Jessica over so you can hit her, too. She's the one who lied to me. She should apologize to you.
I reached my breaking point and shouted at him. You're more pathetic than Jessica. We didn't even have a relationship to begin with, so stop clinging to me, begging for forgiveness. My issues with Jessica have nothing to do with you. You doubted me and jumped to conclusions about my supposed pregnancy without verifying anything. You chose to walk away. Why do you push your mistakes onto others? Ryan, what you call love is just a fleeting infatuation and a form of shared misery. When Jessica cried to you about her family's preference for sons, about often going hungry and being forced to work, you felt sorry for her. You just want someone like you to comfort each other. That kind of relationship is superficial. The moment you feel betrayed or deceived, you wouldn't hesitate to kick us to the curb. It's pointless to keep yourself trapped in the past. Think about that. With that, I turned and walked upstairs. The next time I heard about them was after final exams. With a rare opportunity to relax, we planned to go shopping.
I heard that Ryan went to a bar a few days ago to drown his sorrows and ended up getting into a fight, nearly beaten to death by some big guys.
Chloe said as we looked at her in disbelief.
But here's the kicker, he ended up in the same hospital where Jessica was staying. She had barely started to recover, but while taking a breath in the hallway, she ran into an inebriated Ryan. What happened next? What happened next?
Sarah asked excitedly.
I've heard that when Ryan saw her, he went completely insane. He pulled a folding knife from his pocket and charged at her. Jessica was stabbed multiple times and almost died, then she had to be rushed into surgery.
That's awful. Hearing this makes me feel a bit sorry for her. Sarah sighed. She is a bit pitiful, but she brought this on herself. Let's just enjoy the spectacle, I said, shaking my head with a smile. In my previous life, I had always been by Jessica's side. I ended up moving out and then dying. My life revolved around my studies and supporting myself, with little deep connection to anyone else. Now that I had broken free from her constraints, I realized the world is vast, and I still have time to explore life at my own pace.